While Eskom says police are investigating the kidnapping of one of their employees. They say the worker was shot at and abducted and then later on dropped off in the south of Johannesburg. And despite government's best efforts, it seems South Africans will face blackouts for the foreseeable future. The new electricity minister, Manqoba, has been going across the country visiting power stations to try and understand the extent of the problems. But Eskom's recovery plan is only expected to bear fruit in about 2 years' time. City Power, of course, has also visited specific sites that have been vandalised in Johannesburg. eNCA's Manqoba Mchunu joins me now with more information. Manqoba, talk to us about the City Power issues here in Johannesburg, getting a real sense from them today of just how bad cable theft is in Johannesburg.
Well, certainly, Sally, and of course, when you hear the figures that City Power, mentions as far as, the losses that they've incurred. But, of course, the big challenge that City Power says it's facing is the issue of cable theft, which it says, is also exacerbated by ongoing rolling blackouts. This is because, when these blackouts happen, this is also an opportunity for criminals to also take advantage of the situation. And so they are saying that, Sally, as far as cable theft is concerned, the city is saying that they're losing about 3 million a day in costs in cables that have been stolen at their various facilities. But not only cables, but also damage to infrastructure. They're saying that some of their mini stations, or mini substations rather, are also being stolen as a result of the ongoing power outages, which has really, cost the city as far as the load shedding issue is concerned. But also the city saying that, when looking at the issue of cable theft, they're now trying, Sally, to find ways in which they can mitigate, these losses that they've incurred. And one of the places that they visited today was around the Ekenhof pump station, the Rand Water Ekenhof pump station, where there are several power lines that feed the community of Naturena, which is not far from there. And they're saying that they've had over 2,000 incidents just in that community alone of cables being stolen. And as a result, they've now resorted to trying another measure, which is to, put overhead cables to try and stop the issue of cable theft. And it just tells us, Sally, how dire the situation is as far as cable theft in the city is concerned. It's saying that it costs them about 4 billion rand annually to fix this issue of cable theft. But earlier on, the CEO just gave us a bit of a picture of, Sally, as far as this is concerned, and this is what she had to say.
In a 12-month period, it's easily over 2,000 incidents of cable theft. Now, if we can talk about 2 million in terms of one area, you can imagine how much that is. So we've definitely lost hundreds of millions where cable theft is concerned. And it's not just the cable theft, it's also the theft of other infrastructure such as our mini substations. I mean, we found ourselves in a period where on a daily basis we'll wake up with 1, 2 or 3 mini subs stolen, and one mini sub cost us about 500,000 rands. So you're looking at a region where we are losing about 3 million rands a day, from mini subs. So when you look at it, it's the fact that we are losing the material. We must replace that key material and equipment. There's labor costs that come there. There's the cost of unserved energy, because at that time, obviously, the customers are off. But it also affects quality of supply. It affects us in terms of energy losses in the future. So in a given year, when we combine, the technical losses, because also the infrastructure is old, the non-technical losses, the theft and all of that, it can easily be about over 4 billion rands that we lose when you look at everything else.
I mean, this is just astonishing, the level of thieving going on and how it's having a real dire effect on all of us here in Johannesburg. We know, of course, that this cable theft is not just a Johannesburg problem, but clearly we have a major, major issue in the city itself. We know as well that when load shedding increases, it gives cover of darkness for these thieves to do their work. And we're hearing today that load shedding is going to get into a more intense cycle once again. Tell us more.
Well, indeed, Sally, and in fact, those are news that some of the businesses have taken with a bitter pill, Sally, because for businesses, how they've been affected by load shedding, and many of them saying that they're literally counting their losses as far as load shedding is concerned. We spoke to some of the business people that were telling us, Sally, that they've even had to incur additional costs to try and keep their businesses open. We know that, of course, there are some that have even been forced to close their doors due to load shedding. So it is a bit of a concern for many of the businesses and households, of course, who would ordinarily require electricity to run their lives. But of course, we also spoke to the city saying that they are also concerned because with load shedding, there is an increase as far as some of the incidents of damage and infrastructure damage, but also the fact that sometimes it causes problems with the system itself. When electricity has to come back, you find that there are surges that occur which also damages some of their infrastructure. And so the city is saying that they're also going to be looking at ways, Sally, to try and mitigate load shedding here in Johannesburg. And some of the methods and mechanisms that they're looking into is trying to source electricity from other municipalities, which include Ekurhuleni, as well as other areas here in Johannesburg or independent power producers, just as a measure of trying, of course, to deal with the impact of load shedding, but also saying that in the long term, they're also looking, Sally, at perhaps renewable energy as one of the alternative measures to try and mitigate this. But the CEO of City Power saying that they're exploring various options. Of course, they know that it's quite a frustration. It also damages their infrastructure. And so this is one thing that they're saying they're going to be looking into to try and resolve it. But take a listen to what she had to say.
Load shedding is a definite factor because you publicize, you say to everybody around this time, the infrastructure is not going to be live. And obviously the criminals find it fitting at that point in time to steal. I mean, recently MMC, 3 weeks or so back in the Ramsek area, it was the same thing. We just replaced some cables, kilometer of a cable, and then immediately after that, 4 hours later, because then there was load shedding, they came in and then they stole that as well. So it is a vicious circle. We do need to ensure that we do something about load shedding. City Power's Energy Management Division has been hard at work in terms of putting mechanism to ensure that we find exclusion at least up to stage 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going into stage 3 tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock, and then it's going into stage 4 tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. So it does look like after that, as we ease into the weekend, it's going to get a little easier again. But we're certainly not out of the woods, are we, Manqoba Mchunu, when it comes to load shedding. Thank you so much for braving the elements, standing in the pouring rain here in Johannesburg and bringing us that update on what's going on at Eskom. Still